Hello, welcome back to Fire's Gaming. My name is Ben, and today we continue on with Rizia. So last time out, we just had a very long meeting with President Smolak from Valen, who kind of forced our hand into signing a not particularly good agreement thing regarding the Hand of Zeal. Because, I mean, yeah, dude's a bit of a scumbag, so I don't know. I'm not too happy with how that went, but that's okay. We'll see what happens. So, let's see here. Looks like we've got a report and 4 articles. Let's just start here at Monteclar. Let's see. Tadius Azar discharged from hospital. General Azar was returned home after spending an extended period in the hospital due to a stroke. The family patriarch is still suffering from convulsions, but will now focus on recovering further at the Azaros Palace in Monteclar. Interesting. Okay. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. Hopefully he doesn't try to replace the seat on the council. But let's see. There's some overview updates here. So what do we got? Okay. The average amounts of illegal substance abuse. Interesting. Okay. And let's see. Dissatisfied Golkanist and Dasnerist communities. Interesting. Alright. And persistent drug trade. Interesting. Alright. Well, we'll see what we can do about all that later on. Well, let's check the newspapers here. Looks like we got 2 from each. So, from the Royal Herald, working rights extended to Vazix. Setting an example of benevolent leadership, King Romus has gracefully enacted an amendment to the Zeal Agreement, underscoring a commitment to the principles of justice and equality within the realm. The decision extends full working rights to the Valen citizens residing in Rizia. The royal decree promises to improve the lives of Vazix and Zeal and across Rizia, offering equal access to employment and benefits. We trust His Majesty to ensure that these changes do not come at the expense of native-born Rizians. Instead, this initiative is seen as an enhancement of our societal fabric, intertwining the destinies of Rizia and its Vazic residents in a shared future marked by prosperity and mutual respect. And Rizia Valen signed preliminary deal for Zeal return. After meeting behind closed doors at Port Trazon, His Majesty Romus Taurus and President Victor Smolak of Valen announced that they had reached a preliminary agreement regarding the return of the Zeal region. Because Valen will keep its hold on the region until all of the conditions in the deal are met. Experts say it could take 3 years or longer before the handover is finally completed. Still, we regard this agreement as progress towards a reunited Rizia and look forward to the day when safety, security, and prosperity are restored to our lost land. Cool. And from Geopolitico, Arcasia's economic growth slows to 5%. The economic powerhouse of Arcasia confronts a new reality as its once exponential growth rate eases to 5%, highlighting emerging fiscal challenges amid a shifting economic paradigm. The downturn from a previous high of 9% signifies potential vulnerabilities in Arcasia's domestic financial policies and its adaptability to global market shifts. In response, the Arcasian government has increased its bond issuance, a move still finding favor among investors despite economic headwinds. Though this period of slowed growth injects a dose of caution into Arcasia's economic discourse, as policymakers and international observers speculate on the nation's next steps to recalibrate its economy and maintain its stature on the world economic stage. And Zeal handover officially postponed. After Valen invoked the AN threat mitigation protocol in order to justify its continued hold on the Zeal region, and Rizia's challenge of this motion ended in gridlock, we at Geopolitical have been watching closely for any indication that a new handover date has been set. Now there appears to be an update. King Romus Taurus and President Victor Smolak have agreed on a 3-year timeline, contingent on Rizia meeting Valen's conditions. Given Valen's turbulent past and present and the wealth of resources concentrated in Zeal, we remain skeptical that this new appointment will be honored. I am also skeptical, but that's alright. Okay, let's see here. Alright, we got a decision to fund resistance movements in Zeal. Interesting, okay. We have the option to fund resistance movements in the Zeal region. These could help increase pressure on the Vazic government to return Zeal to Rizia, but they could also destabilize the area, further justifying Valen's decision to hold on to it for national security reasons. So, we can increase funding to the Ariana Taurus Association for -1 budget. Begin funding Zeal branch of Suit Omina. Violent, -1 budget, -250 military equipment. Or fund both for -2 budget, -250 military equipment. Well, I have no intention of helping Suit Omina, so we're just going to go ahead and increase funding to the Ariana Taurus Association. Cool. We have a growing pro-Rizia movement. Oh, there we go. In the political or diplomatic situations, yeah. Cool. That might come in handy. Not sure. We'll see what happens. We got 2 more articles from Geopolitico. Let's see. First up, Anton Rain's presidency. Sordlin's new era begins. Sordlin welcomes Anton Rain as his new president, ushering in an era of anticipated transformation amidst economic trials. Rain's swift political climb is emblematic of the electorate's yearning for reform and economic revitalization. His approach to governance, potentially a cocktail of innovation and traditionalism, will be pivotal in navigating Sordlin through its recessionary phase. As President Rain commences his term, allies and adversaries alike measuring the implications for regional power balances in Eastern Maricopa and beyond. I think it's supposed to be our measuring, but whatever. Anyway, with Sordlin at a critical juncture, Rain's leadership could chart a path for resurgence or retreat. And WHR concerned with Zeal crackdowns. The Watchtower of Human Rights has expressed its worry about the increasing crackdowns by Vezek officials in Zeal. An extensive report published by the organization lists extrajudicial arrests, disappearance of prisoners, and bans on demonstrations as common practice across the region. WHR has called on Valen to allow more observers and journalists into the region, something that has been increasingly difficult ever since stronger travel restrictions were put in place. The organization specifically stressed that the fight against terror cannot mean compromising on basic human rights, but refrained from condemning the delay of the region's return to Rizia. Interesting. Okay. See, I don't see any reports or anything. So I guess we're heading to Morella for a gathering of the MITZ border member states. Interesting. Okay. Oh, right, because they're talking about trying to nationalize it. The thrum of helicopter blades was almost deafening as we prepared for our descent into the Meftium International Trade Zone. I looked out the window. We were above the Meftium Basin, an expansive, dried-up lake containing millions of years' worth of sedimentary deposits. The past decades of industrial activity had turned it into a mosaic of underground and open-pit mines linked by roads, railways, and makeshift canals. Smoke rose from the surrounding refineries, turning the sky a musty shade of orange. My eyes followed a cargo-laden freight train as it departed the Meftium station. Next to me in the helicopter, Elena noticed it too. One of Lespia's by the looks of it. They're going to be shipped out to the Guardian port and reach Vino Robin by this evening. I'm gonna go with that. Lespia, I hope Prime Minister Alvarez remembers I took his side at the AN. I'm sure he hasn't forgotten, but he will be expecting you to follow up on your words with action today. Are you ready for today's meeting? I know neither of us wants Morella's nationalization plans to succeed. An understatement, Miss Verner. My recent talk with President Smollett made it clear that we must protect our remaining gold reserves at all costs. We should listen to Morella's concerns, of course, but no, we cannot simply hand over our assets on a silver platter. We hit a rough patch of air as we continued our descent. I felt the gold disc in my suit pocket bump against my side. Okay, I'm a little confused, but let's see if this explains anything. By the way, didn't you mention back in college that you're an expert on antique coins? Oh, maybe it's that random coin that's was it Rusty, I think, gave him at the... Yeah. Oh my god. The House of Delegates. There we go. Jeez. She adjusted her hair with a proud smile. Why, yes, you remember more about that night than I do, Your Majesty. I showed her the disc Rusty had given me. Her eyes widened in glee. So yes, that's exactly what it is. That's no coin, Your Majesty. It's a resonant arrow Ruis's prayer medallion.
It was originally worn around one's neck with the intention of keeping St. Ruick's teachings close to your heart at all times.
Sounds like it could also be helpful in warding off an assassination attempt.
I wouldn't rely on an assassin to be such a good marksman to hit that thing.
We gently touched down on the helipad of the Corporation Center. Cooperation Center, sorry. The building where ITZ board meetings and other diplomatic functions were held. We were immediately met by a large security retinue and ushered inside to the reception hall where the welcome ceremony was to take place. Almost Sultana greeted us by the entrance. A security staff member showed Elena to her seat, while I followed the Morella Prime Minister to the front of the hall.
Thank you for coming, Mr. Taurus.
Oop, there we go. Prime Minister Sultana, pleasure to see you again.
And you, I hope you've been well since our encounter at the AN. I was glad to hear you were able to reach an understanding with Valen. It gives me hope for today's talks.
Go with that. We haven't solidified our agreement yet. In fact, it'd be very helpful to have the international community on our side right now.
Likewise, Mr. Taurus.
She gestured for me to follow her.
I'd like to start right away, but my advisors have persuaded me that diplomatic protocol must be followed.
The stage had been set up, backdropped by our country's 4 flags. Patricio Alvarez was already sitting there, looking somewhat bored. I took my place next to him. He didn't acknowledge me. Good afternoon, Mr. Prime Minister.
Greetings, Your Majesty.
We both fell silent. I noticed a certain bleariness in his eyes. I wondered whether his decision to quit drinking had lasted. The hall began to fill up with dignitaries, ministers, and heads of corporations. Rusty Montoro was in the back row, talking animatedly to a lesbian politician. He broke off his conversation to throw me a wink. The doors to the hall suddenly swung open. Emmerich Hagel entered, accompanied by a pair of bodyguards. He and Prime Minister Sultana exchanged cheek kisses. Alvarez could barely disguise his look of scorn. Yeah, I mean, what's he doing here? Volkson has nothing to do with this.
Yeah, look at those two, as cozy as peas in a pod.
Let's just not say anything. I didn't acknowledge his remark. I didn't like either of those options, so it's fine. Sultana and Hagel joined us on stage. The Volksonian Chancellor frowned sternly as he shook my hand. Let's just go with that. Good that you made it. It's time we settled this silly debate.
It's not silly, Mr. Taurus. Lives and livelihoods rest in our decisions today.
The 4 of us posed for photographs. The Morella national anthem was played, then those of Volkson, Rizia, and finally Lesbia. Also, nobody's here from Lesbia, apparently? I don't know.
That shows takes priority, or it takes what priority, doesn't it?
Oh, who takes what priority? There we go, jeez.
It's just a ceremony, Mr. Alvarez. Don't read too much into it.
When the music died down, we were escorted to a conference room together with our key ministers, security detail, and a number of legal advisors. Once we were seated, Prime Minister Sultana spoke.
Thank you for carving time out of your schedules to join me today, gentlemen.
He looked around the table at each of us.
Over 35 years ago, our country signed an agreement regarding the sharing of the resources in the Mephian Basin. At that time, Morella was capable neither of exploring the full potential of the gold located here, nor of fending off raids from our dirty neighbors. It was only with the cooperation of Rizia, Volkson, and Lesbia that the international trade zone could become the thriving industrial center it is today. However, our predecessors failed to recognize the social and moral responsibility that comes with such an economic endeavor, and Morella paid the price.
It is high time for us to revisit the original agreement.
I am afraid my government will not be satisfied with cosmetic adjustments to the MITZ contract. All of us, Morella included, have benefited from a contract that allows us to pay ITZ workers less, grant them fewer protections in our individual home countries. At the same time, the area around the trade zone has been turned into a dumping ground for toxic chemicals to the detriment of our water systems and the people who depend on them.
There is only one way forward. The MITZ must be restored to Morellan ownership.
Alvarez audibly scoffed. Is it actually what you believe, Miss Sultana, or are you just parroting the words of Chancellor Hale? Let's see. I'm gonna go with that. That isn't quite the way I would have phrased it, but I too have concerns about the growing closeness between Morella and the Republic of Voxland. I understand. I am not blind to Voxland's role in increasing the sphere of influence of the Canton Security Pact. I assure you that my country's cooperation with Voxland is one based on mutual respect. There is no string pulling. Regardless, nationalization strikes me as a very extreme solution. I recognize that, but I am confident we can come up with a plan that satisfies the wishes of all four of our countries. Chancellor Hagel and I have begun work on a proposal to transfer ownership of the MITZ to the Morella estate. The assets currently owned by Suzerain Rizia and Lesbia would be purchased by a new Morella-owned company, formed specifically for the governance of the MITZ. Each country would then have the opportunity to buy shares in that company.
The Republic of Voxland has already offered to forego that opportunity.
Sultana nodded. Should Rizia and Lesbia choose to buy shares, they could still continue operations in some capacity, albeit under strict oversight and with more input from workers. I'm gonna go here. You must understand that I have Rizia's own interests to think about. If I'm to agree to such a proposal, I have to know that our economy remains stable. It is not my goal to bankrupt any of you. We're willing to make individual agreements with each stakeholder to offset any economic damage done by nationalization. Should we vote to proceed with the proposal, I will solicit each of your input.
And if we vote not to proceed, what then?
Then we would have to go back to the drawing board. In the case of a split decision, we would have to renegotiate the initial ITC agreement until a way forward is found. But Morella will no longer accept the status quo.
Nor will Voxland. Well, Lesbia stands firm in our conviction that the ownership of the MITZ should not change. And I suspect His Majesty King Romus feels the same way.
Was I actually thinking that Alvarez from Arcasia before? I don't know. I could have sworn it said something about Arcasia earlier. Whatever. Everyone seated at the table turned to look at me. Elena cleared her throat. Are you ready for the vote, Your Majesty? No, I have a few more questions for the board. I don't wish you to take this decision lightly, Mr. Torres. What else do you want to know? Hopefully I can ask all of these, but I'm going to go and start with this one first since we already invested in this. As a supporter of the Save the Arfeld initiative, I want to know how your nationalization plan will tackle the pollution issue. Of course, Mr. Torres. At the beginning of ITC operations, companies like your Rizzian Royal Gold were allowing the wastewater to drain directly into the Arfeld River. Techniques have been refined since then, but the damage has lingered. Toxic chemicals continue to leach into the river's watershed and are slowly poisoning the surrounding communities. I might add that the river empties into the Gulf of Mordia, which is bordered by Rizia, Derdia, and Valen, as well as my country. But who allowed the further runoff to happen in the first place, Miss Sultana?
board could have implemented better regulations from the start. She sighed regretfully.
My predecessors intentionally kept ITC regulations lax to attract investment. They were willing to overlook the consequences as long as they kept turning a profit. But no more. Our nationalization plan would not only mandate stricter environmental oversight for the mines, it would allocate a portion of revenue to cleaning up the river and aiding the affected communities.
I mean, I'm kind of down for all of that, but let's go with that. Would it be more efficient if the MITZ stakeholders took charge of such efforts themselves?
Apologies, Mr. Torres, but I don't trust your nation or any other to know what's best for Morella and its people.
Okay, good, yeah, I can ask all these, sweet. I still want to know why Volkson is only supporting nationalization now. Well, why didn't you hand your ITZ stake back to Morella right after the revolution?
A valid question, Mr. Torres. Volkson's socialist values indeed took a backseat to economic stability in the early years of our republic. But more importantly, the prior leaders of Morella could not be trusted to manage the MITZ with compassion and consideration, even though our stake then would have done more harm than good.
Let's go with the first one. Your government was promoting labor union federations in Volksland while underpaying miners here in the MITZ. If that isn't a betrayal of the cause, I don't know what is.
We were struggling to find our footing after the independence of our colonies. Insisting on ideological purity would have destroyed the republic we are setting out to build. But I now trust Miss Sultana's coalition to develop a system in which the miners themselves have the greatest say in ITC operations. I am prepared to help them develop it myself if necessary.
Something like the Volkslanian labor union system, then? Hegel and Sultana looked at each other.
I believe so. The successes of Volkslanian labor union federations, the agriculture and manufacturing industries speak for themselves.
We will have to discuss that. Of course, unionization would be in the best interest of the workers, but we would need to maintain operational consistency, especially at the beginning of the transition.
I'm gonna just go with that. Be a little blunt here. No mixed messages, Miss Sultana. Either you're on the side of the workers or you aren't.
Oh, we are getting ahead of ourselves. These details will be discussed once the nationalization plan is voted on.
I'm sorry, Prime Minister Sultana, but I still don't see how the benefits of nationalization outweigh the drawbacks, especially where Rizia is concerned.
If one only measures benefit in terms of profit, then yes, I admit our proposition is hardly advantageous. With that said, centralizing the MITZ and restructuring its operations with a view towards sustainability will serve us all well in the long term, as will fostering goodwill between the nations of Rizia and Morella.
Goodwill is vague, Miss Sultana. Are you talking about a trade agreement, a military alliance?
I am open to discussion, Mr. Torres.
Hegel looked disgruntled.
Morella is only now embracing its full potential, Miss Sultana. Settling yourself to a monarchy will only make you weaker.
Rizia has treated us with respect thus far. Thus far, I owe King Robus the same.
Let's just go with the last one here. Prime Minister Alvarez, if the nationalization vote does not pass, would you still be willing to address the complaints Prime Minister Sultana has made?
Of course I would, Your Majesty.
He sat up straight.
I would like to point out what a towering achievement it is that the MITZ exists in the first place. 4 countries with 4 vastly different governments coming together for the economic benefit of all.
It sounds preposterous, yet it works. Cooperation, and yes, competition, involved in sharing this valuable resource has not only brought our nations closer together, it spurred innovation far beyond what any of us could achieve individually. We could harness that same spirit to address the very valid concerns Miss Sultana has brought up about the environment and human rights. He shrugged. Or we could throw all that away, scare off investors, put God knows how many people out of work, because why exactly? Score a few points with our eastern comrades? Sultan and Hagel both had icy stares on their faces. Let's just go that one. But you would not be willing to decrease Lespi's profit share.
I am willing to dedicate time and resources to improve conditions in MITZ. Isn't that enough?
Sultana glanced at him uncomfortably.
Whatever is decided today, I'm willing to work with both Rizia and Lesbia. Our differing outlooks shouldn't get in the way of a peaceful compromise.
Okay, I was hoping I could talk to Elena. Let's see what happens. Alright, I'm ready to move forward with my decision. Oh, jeez. Got the hiccups here.
Very good, Mr. Taurus. And by move forward, you mean?
Oh, perfect. Yes, good. I would still like to confer with my treasurer before casting my official vote. Alvarez sighed audibly. Prime Minister Sultana nodded.
I understand. We have set up a separate room for you. The rest of us can break for coffee.
The group dispersed. Elaine and I were seated in a smaller private conference room.
Before we continue, Your Majesty, I do think Mr. Montero should be privy to this conversation as well.
Of course. He owns the majority of Rizzi Royal Gold, after all. Elena notified an aide to send for Rusty. A few minutes later, he appeared.
Your Majesty, Elena, have you tried Morella and Sugar biscuits yet? They're drier than a letter from my ex-wife's divorce attorney.
Okay.
We are here to talk about biscuits, aren't we? Because as far as I'm concerned, the nationalization debate doesn't merit a discussion.
Elena raised an eyebrow.
King Romus here is the leader of our country. If he says the discussion is necessary, then it is.
My sincere apologies to both. I was just joking.
Well, I'm not laughing. This is far from an easy decision. Elena nodded in agreement and glanced up at the clock.
No, we don't have long. Where would you like to begin, Your Majesty?
What will be the economic and financial impact on Rizia if Morella goes through with this nationalization plan?
That depends on the exact nature of the agreement, doesn't it? Even if Rizia buys back his former share of the MITZ, Morella's planned regulations will limit the revenue we can earn from it. But by privately negotiating the proposal terms with Prime Minister Sultana, we may yet be able to make an arrangement where we come out relatively unscathed.
That may be a risk, Your Majesty. Archie almost went belly up after we lost Zeta. Thanks to you, we didn't have to waste money on needless safety regulations, but still, nationalization could be a killing blow.
At the same time, we are facing high gold demand from Rumberg and soon Valen. We have our new gas holdings to fall back on as long as Duke Reinhardt does not renege on his end of the agreement.
I see. Good that we have that gas as a safety net.
The agreement is still being deliberated on. We really should solidify it.
Well, nationalization doesn't seem reasonable to me. What's your opinion?
The nationalization agreement doesn't seem beneficial on the surface, but I can see a few possible perks.
Elena, how could you?
I'm not saying I support this plan, only that it need not be a disaster for us. Any nationalization plan will still need Rizzi's support to go through. Now that means we'll be in a position to make demands. What we lose in gold, we could gain by making a good energy deal, for example.
Well, sounds like I got my money on the wrong resource.
An energy deal would be a better long-term solution than relying on gold mining in a foreign country anyway.
As long as we have energy to offer, that is. There's one other possibility.
She lowered her voice.
We not only buy back Rizzi's share of the MITZ, we purchase Lespia's out from under them.
Rusty grinned.
That's a plan I can get behind.
Interesting, but I don't know if it'd be worth a short-term hit to our finances.
It's just a thought, Your Majesty.
What was Rizia Royal Gold's role in the labor and environmental violations that have occurred in the MITZ? Rusty's mouth dropped open.
Violations is what they're saying. First of all, I remind you that Risen Royal Gold never made our own decisions in MITZ. We only acted on behalf of whoever won the crown. All we ever did was follow the rules. What incentive would we possibly have had for going above and beyond?
So the Rizia government engaged in worker exploitation and toxic waste dumping simply because it was allowed to.
Because Lusby and Morella were doing it too, and Vogson for many more years to Common Hageless willing to admit. Might I remind you that if Rizia hadn't been able to keep our gold prices competitive, Rumberg would never have reached out to us about an alliance. The economy never would have recovered from 26, the populace would still be sore at the monarchy, the dearly departed Princess Leda would have never laid a hand on your royal scepter.
It's a weird way to put that, but alright. Elena looked appalled.
For dust's sake, Rusty, be more respectful to your king.
What I mean to say is, you're welcome, Your Majesty.
But if more stringent regulations were placed on the MITZ, your company would follow those?
Naturally, we're not criminals. Of course, the other MITZ partners have to agree to the same thing. We're kind of one of them gaining an unfair advantage over us.
Well, that was everything I wanted to talk about.
You sure about that, Your Majesty? I'm very happy to talk more about the long-term negative impact from nationalization.
Elena shook her head.
No, we've taken enough time here. We should reconvene with the others.
Alright.
He locked eyes with me.
You know what to do, Your Majesty.
He motioned for the guards to escort him out to the reception hall. We headed back to the conference room and settled back into our seats. Alright, ready to proceed with the vote.
I'm happy to hear that.
Sultana motioned to her secretary to take notes.
We will use an open voting procedure going clockwise around the table. The Republic of Morella casts its vote in favor of nationalization.
The Republic of Vogson casts its vote for nationalization as well.
Prime Minister of Lesbia, being of sound mind, casts his vote against nationalization. It was my turn. Alvarez smiled as Prime Minister Sultana eyed me warily. Boy, okay. Let's see, this is kind of a tough one, but we can find the money. I honestly kind of like Elena's underhanded little plan. So, oh, jeez, I hit the wrong button there. Alright, so ignore the weird cut there. I accidentally clicked on the thing I didn't mean to as I was moving my mouse. So, yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and vote for the nationalization plan. So like I said, I kind of like Elena's underhanded idea. And even if that doesn't work out, honestly, energy might be the way to go anyway. I don't know. But I'm going to go for that. As King of Rizia, I vote in favor of nationalization. The international trade zone should be under Morellan ownership. Hegel applauded solemnly.
A wise choice, Mr. Taurus. History will reward you for it.
I am as surprised as I am grateful, Mr. Taurus. I look forward to collaborating with you on a fair proposal.
I turned to look at Alvarez. He had an artificial smile on his face.
I know when I've been defeated.
You can count on my cooperation. I am absolutely brimming with suggestions.
I'm sure you are.
Sultana rose from her seat energetically.
We should inform our guests of the good news. Let's get back to the reception hall.
Rizzi and Foxlanian and lesbian delegations slowly began filing out of the conference room. Next to me, Elena spoke under her breath.
Brave choice, Your Majesty. We'll have to drive a hard bargain with Morella, risk disrupting gold production.
I know, but I truly think this will be better for us in the long run.
You're the king. I trust your instincts.
As Alvarez and I stood up, I saw him take another sip from his flask. He noticed my gaze and nodded slightly.
So he sided with the commies in the end.
I did. Do you have a problem with it?
Yeah, first your underhanded dealings with Pelé, now this.
You're really starting to test my resolve, King Taurus. He stepped past me and out the door. Hegel was still seated. I could feel his eyes boring into me. Oh, yeah, that's right. The whole Aureus gas field thing, that was with Lesbia, wasn't it? Fantastic. Whoopsie doodle. I don't know if I read that. Hegel was still seated. I could feel his eyes boring into me. Would you like to say something to me?
Not now, Mr. Taurus, but soon.
We walked back onto the stage of the reception hall and waited Prime Minister Sultana's announcement. Fantastic. Alright, looks like a whole bunch of things just popped over here. Okay, I don't know, I won't let me just click back there, but that's okay. There we go. Alright, well, anyway, that feels like as good a place as any to call it for today. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. I hope to see y'all next time.